income source for only one partner?
So it's irrelevant whether it's a business income source for one partner or both. The business is eligible to apply, but the partner whose income's from somewhere else, then whether or not they are eligible for the COVID-19 disaster payment is another question outside the scope of this example.
Thanks, Michael. Bridget, when we say approved to be paid, which is communicated, can we give more detail on when payments will be made?
So once it leaves service, it goes to the financial institution, and we generally say that once approved, we'd like the payment to be made within 5 days. That's the goal.
Thank you. Okay, so our next question is around a business that has offices in multiple cities in Australia, and it's around calculating the 30% downturn in turnover for the support packages. Does the business just isolate the New South Wales turnover, or is it the decrease calculated Australia-wide? And I think you touched on this briefly before, Michael. But
so that's a really good question, and it is the Australia-wide turnover of the ungrouped entity. So it is Australia-wide, and that's simply because this is a joint New South Wales Commonwealth program, and so it's aligned to a lot of the Commonwealth requirements, which is that it be a national decline.
And while we're on the topic of national, some of the websites have dropped the word national from the aggregated turnover. Can we provide a little bit of clarity around that, please?
Yeah, so this is, and this is something that really has come out of the evolving situation. When this was a small business type package, when it was limited to firms below 50 million, this wasn't an issue, and then we've opened it up to much larger firms now, and so the issue of foreign revenue has come into question. But the word national is essentially there to differentiate from state, but the concept that we are linking to is the ATO aggregated turnover concept, and that includes the turnover of both national turnover, but also the turnover of foreign grouped affiliates.
Thanks, Michael. The next question is around multiple businesses operating under a single ABN, and if one of the businesses has a downturn of 30% but the other two aren't impacted, does the client still meet the turnover requirements? And I think, David, maybe you could help with this one.
It's a slightly tricky one, that one. Three businesses under one single ABN.
So it's one ABN.
One ABN and three businesses is very unusual. It's just that I'd have to look at the exact circumstances. Strictly speaking, I think we'd be looking at it as trying to work out the downturn of all businesses, because it's a bit unusual the way the actual questions.
So normally you normally have multiple ABNs for one business.
Correct. Not
the
the
idea
other
that
way
you have multiple businesses for one ABN is quite unusual. So it would come down to whether or not there were other entities in existence, and whether or not those entities were separately reporting GST revenue. But if they were not separately reporting GST revenue, then it would be treated as one business. If they were separately reporting GST revenue, then they would be able to degroup for the purposes of the turnover decline test.
I'd probably suggest one ABN, one application usually.
I would say so. Yeah. So yeah, generally I think one ABN is one business.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I think we might have time for one last question before we need to start wrapping up. How do we calculate the drop in revenue when a business is seasonal, and the amount of revenue might change depending on the time of the year?
Great question, and that's why we've set up the comparisons periods with the prior year. And it's why we've also required that the decline in revenue be due to the impact of the restrictions. So, for example, if you're a farmer running a business and the time of year at which your crop has matured or has come on board, or this year your crop didn't mature for reasons to do with the weather, then that revenue decline is not to do with COVID. That's to do with the weather, and that is not an application that you should make for a business grant. So clearly there has to be narrative behind those comparison periods. It can't just be a pure comparison test. It's got to be linked to the restrictions. And we will look very closely at those types of applications where we know the businesses have either intermittent or seasonal income, and we know that school holiday dates change, the dates at which crops mature change, and so that comparison has to be a fair one.
Thank you, Michael. Great answer. We've got a few minutes left. I'll just ask one final question and then I'll give everyone in the panel an opportunity to touch on any key points that you think would be pertinent based on the type of questions we've been receiving. Last question is, what is the exact process? Sorry, the question just changed on me. Apologies. I was going to ask, what's the basis of decline in turnover? Is it cash or accrual?
Great question. So if you're reporting GST in cash terms, then it's cash. If you're reporting GST in accrual terms, it's accrual. And I know there's issues around the business saying, well, I can't demonstrate, I'm a cash business, but I can't demonstrate decline because I'm still getting checks coming in. So the way your business works is because it's a cash business, not an accrual business, your business's revenue is not declining until the cash revenue stops coming in. So the main difference between cash and accrual, as we know, is timing. And so given the length of the lockdown, you will be eligible at some point. And because obviously the business has ceased to trade, then the income will decline. It's just that may be a deferred decline to what it might be for an accrual business. And so you'll still be eligible to receive payments under the JobSaver package, but you might just have to wait until the revenues actually do decline before making that application. For an accrual business, that simply isn't the case because the payments are aligned, can be accounted for in line with when the activity is occurring. If activity ceases, then revenue ceases.
Fantastic. Thank you for that answer, Michael. I'll now throw it open to the panel for anything that they'd like to reiterate or any additional points that you'd like to make before we close for the evening.
I think just, Philippe, that, payments will happen quicker and things will get processed if the documentation is provided that's asked for in each of the grants here. Or as outlined by Michael, we have many in assessment where documentation hasn't been provided, and that in effect causes a delay as well. So, I think this has been a really helpful session, Michael, some great and updated information that we'll get out as well. But yeah, that would be my key message.
Thanks, Bridget. Michael, anything from you? Any final remarks?
Yeah, look, one thing that I probably should emphasise is, these programs are at risk of fraud, and what I'd ask of the accounting profession is to keep their eyes out for that because, this is public money. It's designed to support businesses through this time, and if people are rorting the system, then that makes it harder for all of us, and it means we have to ask for more documents. And so I would ask for the support from the accounting profession just to keep their eye out for that, and please make sure that the businesses that you're seeing who make the application are doing it because they really need the funds, because there are so many that do. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Some great relevant points there. David, did you want to say anything?
I was just going to quickly mention we've seen a lot of people not put in the entry from their BAS appropriately a lot. So, and that causes us to need to make contact and need to get things approved. So please remember to calculate a weekly component, not a monthly or a 3-monthly component in your application. That's just one tip.
Thanks, David. That's a great tip. And finally, John, I know you've been looking at a lot of inquiries that come through. Are there any prominent ones that you want to just say a couple of words about?
Look, I think this has been a fantastic forum, and it really has covered a lot of those questions and cut the themes of the questions that we are getting through. I would say that, you know, I, along with an ever-growing team of business concierges and knowledge management specialists, are here to help. And, you know, we all come from a place that we want to help businesses in this difficult time, and that we are working 7 days a week to take those calls and to provide the answers and to support business.
Thanks, David. I think that's sorry, John, that's a beautiful way to end. And I'd like to thank you, Bridget, Michael and David, for your time this evening to answer some of the questions that we received from the audience, and also thank the audience for their time and for joining us. We did get a lot of questions that we probably didn't get to this evening, but we will endeavour to update our website and our online content to try and answer some of those common ones through our FAQs. And we will be updating the toolkit for accounting and tax professionals with the new developments and information from the session tonight, which will then be sent out soon. Thanks again for your time, and we'll hopefully get some applications out quickly to you. Thanks.
Thank you.